40 days or 37 days until the release of Guild Wars 2. Pretty good. Another 10 days done. That's actually kind of crazy. We're already 23. So what? That's a third of the way finished already. It's funny because as time goes by, it feels like it's dragging and dragging and dragging. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we've had 20 days done. So yeah, we're a third of the way there. Hooray for that. The next beta weekend event is coming up very soon. I think, in fact, even maybe in about 24 hours, it might have begun from the time this video's gone up. In fact, you'll find a link in the description. Aren't showed me this cool thing that it's like this web page, and it's got when the beta is going to be launching in like all the different time zones, which is really cool. And also bear in mind one thing with that is with the previous betas, ArenaNet have opened them up like an hour early, and some people have been really lucky and got in just because they happened to try it an hour beforehand. I was really lucky on the second beta. I was in there like right at the start when people were capping all the stuff in World vs World and that. So be careful of that. But yeah, there's a link there if you want to know specifically when. But yeah, we're getting closer. The feature for today is the signature cities of the races. Maybe not a feature in and of itself, but it is a really cool thing that when I originally asked everyone, I was like, hey, what's exciting you about the game? A lot of people did come out with this. I think this is so cool what they've done with Guild Wars 2. We've got like 5 main big cities in the game, right? Which maybe isn't that much compared to MMOs that have been out for a really long time and have had loads of expansions, but each of these are done really, really well. They're not constituted as a big city just because they cover a large area of the map and not much is going on. They're a big city because they are bloody huge and they've got loads and loads of stuff going on in them. There's loads of buildings, places you can go inside, little things and little people you can talk to, and all kinds of stuff going on, which is really, really fantastic. I've absolutely fallen in love with pretty much every city we've seen so far. The only one that I didn't like that much was Holbrack, which even that comes down to a question of taste for me. I love Lion's Arch, being a player of the first game and being able to see all the sunken stuff along with all the new bits as well. And Divinity's Reach as well looks as incredible as when we first saw it right at the start of that first trailer. It all just comes out so well, and I can't wait for this next beta weekend event to go and explore Ratassoon myself, because these places have just been so lovingly crafted and there's so much to them. I can quite confidently say that I feel like these are the best cities we've seen in any MMO so far, and I usually don't want to go too all out on any kind of statement like that, but they are just miles away and above, which is just really cool. There's so much going on with them, and I love that about Guild Wars 2. That is something really big for me that's going on with the game, a really awesome feature. You'll find a link in the description below about that. I'm sure I'll either have one link to them in general on the wiki, or if they've got like separate pages for all of them. But yeah, really, really cool. Then there might even be some more. I mean, we've got in lore Ebenhawk and stuff like that, and you can see on the map that there's like a ring there. What it's like there in particular though, whether it's as big in scale as the other places, we don't know right now, but there could be a sixth. There could be another massive place too, which would be pretty crazy to think about. Anyway, today I've got a few questions from you guys. The first one's from SteadyTip. Oh yeah, by the way, yesterday I do know I used the wrong text, sorry about that, but the first one today is from SteadyTip, who said, I think the big deal with renown events is not that they're like quests. When you're doing a heart, you're not accomplishing some goal that people have. They're renown hearts. You're getting in good with the heart guy. Gathering information for an Asura researcher by killing Scale and getting samples of their food helps you make the Asura like you and give you money and sell you karma items, not finish his research project. Impacting noticeable changes are for events. And that, I think, is the problem. I talked a lot about the renown events yesterday, and some people did come back and say stuff along these lines that the renown events aren't supposed to be the things that make impacts on the world, and they're not supposed to be the things that you come away from feeling like you're a complete hero. But the main problem now is that renown events, not events, are the thing people are primarily being driven towards to complete and then move on. The sad thing is that the game is now in this kind of weird checklist area where you'll go into a new explorable area and your goal in this explorable area is to finish it, to get 100%. So you look, what do you need to do for that? Well, you've got to find certain things, the point of interest and the vistas, which is simple as getting to a location, and beyond that you've got the skill challenges, which again is just getting to a location and usually killing something or buying something from someone, and then the renown events. And the renown events don't have all these awesome things that regular events are being made for and that are giving Guild Wars 2. Renown events have got all the problems of traditional questing, and they're the things that people are mainly going for. And that's why I feel like any flaws in the renown heart system that are there and that are becoming noticeable are serious deals, because they're undermining everything that the events have worked so hard to achieve. You've got a situation now where you can go to an area with a renown event where you won't ever do any proper events, any quests, if you will, for Guild Wars 2. You'll just start cleaning up or killing rats and waiting for them to respawn, then killing another one, and then cleaning up these bins until eventually you've got in with the local, and then you walk off and leave. And there could be loads of events. There could be a whole event chain there. There's a particular area in Queensdale that makes me think of this. There's this lake down in the southwestern corner where there's this whole event chain with all these people around there that if you complete all the events, it ends up spawning this giant monster in the lake that you can go out and kill, and it scares all the NPCs and they all stop fishing and using the lake, and then you go and convince them to start using it again, and you end up fighting this big boss, and it's really cool there. But there wasn't a heart quest there. So the only reason I saw that is because I specifically recognized that I didn't want to get caught into just doing the renown events, and I kind of pushed away from that and went off and did my own thing. Now, how many people are going to do that? A lot of us are just going to want to get 100% completion and then think, right, well, I'm finished with Queensdale now I never have to go back there. And we'll miss out on a lot of stuff, and a lot of the really cool stuff. Guild Wars 2 innovated in all these ways with events, and now renown events, as I say, are kind of undermining it. And I'm wondering if this just kind of slipped through for ArenaNet, because renown events originally were only supposed to be guiding markers. They were supposed to be things that would give people a general indication of areas on the map where lots of regular events would be. They were the thing that would lead you to the thing you were supposed to be doing, the events. They would lead you to the general hotbeds of activity. But now, where you kind of complete the hearts, and then by completing the hearts you together complete the entire area, instead the events aren't a part of it anymore, and you're going to the areas for the heart rather than for the events that are around there. And that's a big problem, that the motivation of the player is now switched, and renown events aren't doing what they were originally supposed to. And I wonder if that just kind of... I can see why ArenaNet developed the renown events in the way they did, and eventually said, right, we'll let people complete them, and we'll make merchants available, and we'll do this. I can see why they made the developments, but collectively, how the system's changed, it does seem to have really, I feel like, negatively impacted what Guild Wars 2 is supposed to be about, which is exploring and finding events and changing the world through those. And I don't know, I mean, it's early days, it definitely is. A few people said that yesterday, and I completely agree, but that's what worries me, that it's early days and I can already kind of see this coming, and we haven't even been to that many explorable areas. I'll hold my breath for now, though. We'll see how it is after the game's actually launched, but it's something I'm a little bit worried about, that's all I can say. The next question is from AWNNLSN. What is that meant to say? Onst. Okay, Onst says, a quick question. Will we still have the gems given to us during the betas, like the 2,000 from Beta Weekend Event 2 at launch, or was that just to introduce the gem store? All those free gems you got before, you probably won't get back again. And on this same note, they're not giving us, I did say in a previous daily that I suspected it might happen, it has been confirmed, they are not giving us any free gems this next Beta Weekend event. Basically, now that you can pay for them, they're going to make us pay for them. There's not going to be any free gems, so when you're picking your server this time, be careful about that, because you're not going to be able to fully transfer. You'll still be able to guest, so it's not too bad, but you won't be able to fully transfer from this next Beta Weekend event unless you decide to spend real world money, which you will in a weird way be reimbursed for at launch, because you'll get those gems back, but do bear that in mind. So they are being they're being a bit more hardball this time. There's no free gems. It's literally, I guess they need to see how much people are willing to spend and how the microtransactions hold up and all that kind of metrics and good stuff there. So yeah, there's no questions asked anymore. It's no more free gems, and you won't get any gems you had before this Beta Weekend event back, as far as I'm aware. The next question's from Matthewsor1, who said, Potatoes, I have a lore question. In Prophecies, we've been told that Glimp was brought to Tyria by the gods. Later, we find out that she was a champion of one of the Elder Dragons. Does this mean that she wasn't actually brought by the gods, or does it establish a relation between the gods and the dragons? It means both. It means both of those things. There's been a bit of a weird kind of retconny-ish thing. They established in early Prophecies, as you say here, that the gods had some interaction with the dragons, but it has now kind of been stated that no, the gods didn't bring Glint to Tyria. She was kind of there already, which is actually contrary to what some of the earlier lore said. It specifically is, and it's one of those things that ArenaNet clearly didn't realise that they were going to have to change later on. I mean, even if you look at when they were developing Guild Wars 2, you can read the movement of the world, and it explains that Glint and Kunavang, the two dragons we were already familiar with, were apparently as different from the Elder Dragons as night and day, and that's in the movement of the world when they were already developing Guild Wars 2, an article that came out around that time. But even that's kind of been changed now. I mean, the statement still stands, I guess, depending on your perspective, but the original intent, I get the feeling that they had with a statement like that, where they say that they're as different to the Elder Dragons as night and day, was to kind of say these things are completely separate. But then obviously later on they turned around and said that, oh no, Glint is actually related to the Elder Dragons, so how can they be as different as night night and day, well, then I suppose you could say, well, because Glimp was good, and obviously Kraukatorrik is not very good. But yeah, basically, it's understood now that Glint was left over from the previous Elder Dragon rampage or whatever. She was the champion of Kraukatorrik indeed, but for whatever reason, she kind of turned to our side, sort of thing. The gods did come to Tyria at some point after the previous Elder Dragons fell asleep, and they did at least interact with Glint in the Crystal Desert. They must have, because there was a lot of talking about that, and obviously Glint then had the Forgotten who were brought to Tyria by the gods. Glint had the Forgotten overwatching the rites of ascension, which is the process of becoming closer to the human gods. So Glint is in some way interconnected with the human gods. They were at least aware of one another, you can say that much, and to say that the gods were aware of Glint could also be to say that the gods were aware of the Elder Dragons. So there is some kind of a connection, definitely. You can see it there in its barest of forms. Then there's a lot of speculation you can do later as well, in that Glint, when you go into Glint's dragon's lair, there's loads of facets of her which look like spiritual dragons, basically, right? And then in Eye of the North, you find loads of facets of the gods which look just like Glint's facets. So you find facets of the gods which are also spiritual dragons. So there's a lot of connections and a lot of weird things like that going on. So yeah, both are true, really. Glint wasn't brought to Tyria by the gods, even though there is some stuff that kind of suggests to the contrary then from the very early days, and at the same time there is some kind of relationship between the gods and the dragons, but we don't know what. And before everyone goes off again, that theory that there is one Elder Dragon for every god, it has its holes. It still has its holes, even though there is definitely some kind of connection there. The last question is from Dinu400, who said, "Hey, Wooden Potatoes, you cited me up by saying that you would tell us later about how Glint's crystal sand place looked like the crystals in Ascalon. Please, can you summarize this? I just want to get this mystery answer of yours out of the system." Sorry about this. I know I keep saying stuff and then I never come back to it in the end. Yeah, this is essentially the theory that those crystals that were launched down on Ascalon during the Searing are somehow connected to Kraukatorrik. This was a more compelling and interesting theory before it was confirmed that Glint was Kraukatorrik's champion, and in fact, if you were to go back and look at my LP when I was in the Dragon's Lair, this was before that was true, before we found that out, and I kind of had this theory going, and I'm not saying that I invented the theory, but it was one that I was thinking about a lot, and it turned out to be mostly correct. So the idea basically is, as we know, the Searing was brought down by the Char using the Cauldron of Cataclysm, which is this old artifact that is described to be older than the Titan, so really, really old, and created by beings since fallen into sleep and quiescence. I believe that's the way they say it. So there's a hint there that this thing, the Cauldron of Cataclysm, may have come from an Elder Dragon, and that still is only a hint. That's not confirmed that they did come from an Elder Dragon, but this magic that is within it is supposedly from that time, a long, long time ago, right? Then when the Cauldron of Cataclysm was used, it sent down these big crystals, right? And Glint herself, who is a champion of Kraukatorrik, so related to the Elder Dragons, in her lair, she is a crystal dragon, and her lair has crystals that look very similar to the ones that were in Ascalon. And then you have Kraukatorrik too, who created the brand, which sent even more crystals all over the place when he flew overhead of Ascalon many years later and corrupted a lot of the land that was there. So we have all these crystals and all these events and characters that you can link together to then suggest that the Searing and all these crystals that rained down on Ascalon, that was invoked by the Char and the Titans, no doubt, but the idea is that all this magic and the Cauldron of Cataclysm itself is from Kraukatorrik, from the Elder Dragons. So that's all it is. And a long time ago, before we could say 100% that Glint and Kraukatorrik were related, you could say and you could see that they were related perhaps through these crystals, and the fact that we had that the crystals could have been from the Elder Dragons because of the Cauldron of Cataclysm, and then they looked the same as what we found in Glint's lair, and you could kind of map it all out together. It is now confirmed that Glint and Kraukatorrik are related. Will it then later be confirmed that the Searing is essentially Kraukatorrik's magic that was imbued into an artifact that later destroyed an area? Well, maybe we'll have to find out eventually, but that's the theory basically, that just all those crystals are the same kind of thing and they're all related somehow in the lore, and that's how, all through Kraukatorrik. But yeah, there you go guys, that was the Great Guild Wars 2 countdown for today. Thank you very much for watching. Yesterday I forgot to say who provided the footage. That was Dewbinder, so very sorry about that. But yeah, that's about it guys. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.